Welcome, everyone. It is Friday, March the 13th, 2020. It is currently 4:09 p.m. Central Time, and this is, a live broadcast of the Theology Central podcast. This is kind of a special live broadcast because this was not planned or intended. However, in fact, if you've been paying attention to what we're doing today, I did a live broadcast kind of talking about the coronavirus and all the different ways it's being talked about in the media and by different people and how many within Christianity are handling it. So we talked about that. We did a live broadcast. We ended that live broadcast. I hit the go live button a second time to do a sermon review on this whole idea of abiding in Christ. What does it mean? How different sermons handle it. That went for, let me look here. That went for 89 minutes. Yeah, 89 minutes we did that. So we talked about that. Then I ended that live broadcast. And then I started working on my sermon for Sunday, focusing on Romans and James, trying to come up exactly where I'm going to start and try to pick up where we left off last week, trying to determine if I should do anything different. So I'm trying to make a plan for Sunday. And then all of a sudden I get an email notification. Let me go here to the email that I received from one of our listeners. His name is Will. I won't give his last name. His name is Will. And so this is how the email, it showed up at 3:38 p.m. Central Time. Again, I may have been live on the air when I received the email. I may have been off the air when the notification come through. I think I got the notification, obviously, when I was off the air. The email may have been sent when I was on the air. But this is what the email says. So to be clear, today's announcement, while a major blow to the museum in D.C., does not diminish reliability of the Dead Sea Scrolls in general, correct? We can still call Dead Sea Scrolls the oldest surviving manuscripts of the Old Testament. That's in a question form. I saw those fragments in D.C. in 2018. Now, when I got the email, I was like, wait, what's going on? Wait, what happened? I was like, wait, I missed something because I've been so focused on the coronavirus that I missed some announcement with the Dead Sea Scrolls and DC. What? There's something. I mean, clearly there's something. In fact, let me read that again. When I read this, so to be clear, today's announcement, while a major blow to the museum in D.C., does not diminish reliability of the Dead Sea Scrolls. So something related to the Dead Sea Scrolls happened in D.C. at the Museum of the Bible. What happened? I'm like, what occurred? Something that could possibly call into question their reliability. So I was like, well, let me see what's going on. So I immediately did a Google search, found a number of news articles, started reading the news articles. I'm like, okay, I can at least provide a short answer to the person who emailed me. And again, I always appreciate people emailing questions and thoughts and anything because it leads to this, me doing a live broadcast. So I do appreciate that. So I immediately started trying to gather information. I've reached out to some other people who are far more experts in this area and this field of study than I am. Hopefully I'll get some replies here. But what I want to do is at least just provide the best answer I can provide right now. So let me say this. This is somewhat of a breaking news story. I guess it happened hours ago today. And I'll tell you about the story, tell you its implications, and we'll just kind of start back. I'll try to give you as much information as I can, but please know that everything I say here, you need to do your own research, you need to check, and you just need to be aware of this. So let's talk about the Dead Sea Scrolls, all right? Because please note my podcast does not show up on does not show up on websites that are necessarily focused on, in other words, we're not on Sermon Audio. We're not necessarily on Christian sites. We show up on podcasting platforms that are not necessarily focused on Christian podcasts. They're just focused on all podcasts. So we can have a lot of people listening to us who may not even be Christian. So they may not even know what the Dead Sea Scrolls are. They may have no clue. So let's just make this very clear. The Dead Sea Scrolls, they are ancient Jewish religious manuscripts that were found in some caves in the Judean desert. All right, they were discovered between 1946 and 1956. I don't know if I think there were multiple discoveries. So I think they start in 1946, they go to 1956. And these manuscripts are very important, all right? Scholarly consensus dates these scrolls from the last 3 centuries BC, all right? BC, BCE, if you want to do before Common Era, however you want to use that distinction, all right? These texts have so the Dead Sea Scrolls, there are these Jewish religious manuscripts found in the caves in the Judean desert that were discovered between 1946 and 1956. The consensus is that these scrolls date from the last 3 centuries BCE. I think they go all the way to the 1st century CE. I think they go up to that time frame, if I remember correctly. The text would have great historical, religious, and linguistic significance because they include, this is very important, because they include the second oldest known surviving manuscript of works later included in the Hebrew Bible canon. All right. They include the second oldest known surviving manuscript of works later included in the Hebrew Bible canon. So this is of great significance. Now, let me look here really quick. And there's a lot more here we could talk about. Biblical significance, all right, just so that you know why within the Christian world and the Jewish world, why this is important. Before the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, the oldest Hebrew language manuscript of the Bible were the Masoretic text dating to the 10th century CE, such as the Aleppo Codex. Today, the oldest known extant manuscripts of the Masoretic texts date from approximately the 9th century. The biblical manuscripts found among the Dead Sea Scrolls push that date back a full 1,000 years to the 2nd century BCE. This was a significant discovery for the Old Testament scholars who anticipated that the Dead Sea Scrolls would either affirm or repudiate the reliability of textual transmission from the original text to the oldest Masoretic texts. The discovery demonstrated the unusual accuracy of transmission over a 1,000-year period, rendering it reasonable to believe that the current Old Testament texts are reliable copies of the original works. So the Dead Sea Scrolls are of great significance. They demonstrate reliability of the Old Testament text. They say, hey, when we go this far back, that gives us some idea that this is reliable, that what we have is reliable, and it's reliable, and we can trust that what we have is close to what would have been in the original. All right. So this is a significant discovery and used constantly by Christian apologists to argue, how can we trust the Bible? Look at the Dead Sea Scrolls. How can you trust the Bible? Look at the Dead Sea Scrolls. Pastors will use this kind of information in sermons. Hey, how do you know the Bible is true? Dead Sea Scrolls, Dead Sea Scrolls, Dead Sea Scrolls, Dead Sea Scrolls. Talked about. Now, by no means am I a textual expert, not even going to pretend to be a textual expert. I would have to refresh all of my studies that I did in seminary and Bible college on the subject, but it is an important subject. All right. So it's used. It's used a lot. To say that it's not used, I think would be disingenuous. It's used. Now, maybe it's used sometimes in an incorrect way by many pastors who may not understand the right way to use it, its history. How does this compare to this text? There's probably a lot of things pastors may miss out, especially if you're not an expert and a student of ancient biblical text and how do they demonstrate reliability, how to interpret them correctly. Right. So I understand that it may have been misused, but there's no way to deny that it's used constantly. And you hear about the Dead Sea Scrolls in Christian books all the time. I'm assuming in many parts of Judaism the same way. So it's pretty significant. All right. So why do I get this email today going, wait a minute, can we still trust are the Dead Sea Scrolls still the oldest? Are they still reliable? I mean, what do we do? Well, this is why I got that email. Here is the story. This comes from the Times of Israel. All right, timesofisrael.com. All 16 Dead Sea Scroll fragments at D.C. Museum, I think it's called the D.C. Museum of the Bible. Yes, it's called the Museum of the Bible. It's located in Washington, D.C. All 16 Dead Sea Scroll fragments at D.C. Museum revealed as fake. They're revealed as fake. The head of the Museum of the Bible says we're victims of misrepresentation. We're victims of fraud after report found that the artifacts were forgeries. I got to stop right here. If you're going to be at the Museum of the Bible and you're going to deal with any kind of ancient, any kind of ancient manuscripts of anything along that line, you've got to have a way to verify. Because you're putting these things up. I have not seen the display in the Museum of the Bible. I do not know if there are statements underneath these fragments arguing, look at how these are authentic fragments of the Dead Sea Scrolls, and these fragments right here in front of you prove the following 5 things. I do not know if there's a display at that museum that states that. If that is true, then this is horrible and embarrassing. If it's true, that's horrible. I do not. The display may just say, hey, these are fragments from the Dead Sea Scrolls, and they make no claim about what it proves. If there's any claim in the display that this proves the veracity of this text, it shows the reliability of biblical transmission, and they point to those fragments as proving it, well, you're going to have people go, hey, guess what? Dead Sea Scrolls are fake. Because that's how a lot of people, now that this has come out, that those 16 are fake, skeptics are going to just walk away with it. That's how they're going to read it. So you can't trust the Museum of the Bible. They put fake things in there to try to prove the Bible is true. That's how. Now, I'm not saying that's fair, but I'm saying that's going to be the perception. Now, right now with the coronavirus, this news story may not even get any attention. All right, it may be completely ignored, but you need to know it, and you need to be aware of it in case someone tries to throw this in your face. So let's dig into this story and see if we can find a balanced approach to this. The 16 Dead Sea Scroll fragments housed at the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C. are forgeries, museum officials said Friday. We're victims. We're victims of misrepresentation. We're victims of fraud. Okay, well, maybe you're a victim, but you also, you're a museum. So maybe before you put something on display, you have it tested, you have it checked, you have it verified. The CEO, Harry Hargrove, said at an academic conference hosted by the museum, National Geographic reported. A team of researchers led by an art fraud investigator issued a 200-page report saying that while the fragments may be made of ancient leather, the ink was from modern times and altered to look like the real Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, this is very important. This is the paragraph that I sent to the person who emailed me because I thought this was important. Most of the 100,000 real Dead Sea Scroll fragments lie in the Israel Museum in Jerusalem, and the report does not question their authenticity. I want you to hear that again. Most of the 100,000. Now remember, we have 16 fragments here that have been proven to be fake that are in the Museum of the Bible in D.C. However, 100,000 real Dead Sea Scroll fragments lie in the Israel Museum in Jerusalem, and guess what? The report does not question their authenticity. All right? They do not question their authenticity. And then it goes on to say that the scrolls were found in clay jars in the caves in 1947, holding thousands of the parchment scrolls dating back more than 1,800 years, including some of the oldest surviving copies of the Hebrew Bible. And that concludes the story. So what do you need to realize this? I'm going to read that statement again. You may want to pause this and write it down word for word. More of the 100,000 real Dead Sea Scroll fragments lie in the Israel Museum, and the report that was published and released today showing that those 16 fragments in the DC Museum are fake, that report does not question the authenticity of those 100,000 real Dead Sea Scroll fragments. It does not call those into question. So the 100,000 are still considered real, still considered authentic, and still would argue are used to demonstrate that the transmission of the Old Testament was reliable, trustworthy, and therefore we can have some assurance that it can be trusted and be viewed as authoritative. The 16 fragments in the DC Museum, if they have been used, this is very important, if those 16 fragments have been used by anyone to make any kind of claim, if they've been used in any apologetic work, I cannot say that they have. I don't know. I don't really know much about those 16 fragments. I'm just saying if they have been, I would hope that Christian publications would immediately publish a retraction and remove those claims from any apologetic book. If any pastors have used those 16 fragments to prove any point, that they would offer a retraction, because we want to be accurate, factual, historical, truthful, biblical, fair. We don't want to misrepresent or confuse people in any way, shape, or form. All right? So the 16 fragments, make this very clear, the 16 fragments that were in the museum in D.C., fraudulent, fake. Don't claim anything about them. Hopefully they're going to be removed. Hopefully they're already out of that museum and taken down. They're gone. But the 100,000 that's in the museum in Jerusalem, those are real, and no one is questioning their authenticity. This does not call into question the Dead Sea Scrolls. This calls into question 16 fragments that were found that were in a museum in D.C. That's all the report covers. Right? If you see people on social media making nonsensical statements, it'll probably be, especially atheists and skeptics. Hey, look, the Dead Sea Scrolls are fake. The Dead Sea Scrolls are fake. Slow down. 16 fragments were. Now, there's no excuse that they got, that's messed up that they put them up. And I hope the display said very little. I hope the display in front of those fragments said very little. I hope it wasn't making outlandish claims about those 16 fragments. Those are just fragments, and those fragments were fake. Now, is this going to lead to more testing of the 100,000 fragments in the museum in Jerusalem? Hopefully those have already been tested. Or is there going to be additional testing? What happens if all of them are proven to be fake? Well, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But for now, that's not the claim. The claim has nothing to do with the fragments in the museum in Jerusalem. Only the 16 fragments that were in the museum in D.C. I know I'm repeating myself, but I don't want there to be any confusion. I want to thank Will for sending that email. I completely missed that story. Don't know how I missed that story. So I missed it. I apologize. Thank you for sending it. I wanted to go live as soon as I can. And if you have any questions, if anybody gets any updates, if you have any more information that's relevant to this, if I have said anything incorrectly or wrong, I apologize. I've tried to be very precise and be very careful. We'll see where this goes. You can always email me at newsif@yahoo.com, newsif@yahoo.com. And let me just look really quick. Sorry if I bumped the mic right there. Just make sure I haven't received any notifications. Nope, I've not received anything. Go back to my email. And no email. Okay, I just want to make sure I haven't received any information in any way, shape, or form that speaks of this. All right, I don't see anything. So hopefully I've covered everything about as precise as I can with the information that I currently have available. Hopefully I've helped you understand exactly what happened. Hopefully you understand that as far as we can tell, the rest of the Dead Sea Scrolls, those are trustworthy. Those are in the museum in Jerusalem. The report does not question those. And if that changes, I will definitely let you know. All right, email me at newsif@yahoo.com, newsif@yahoo.com. I'm going to go see what's going on as far as the coronavirus is concerned, how it's impacting the area where I live, what decisions we need to make for Sunday. Please be safe. Please be safe. Please be informed. And, thank you for listening, and have a great, I would say have a great day. Just be careful wherever you live and take the necessary precautions to keep yourself safe and keep others safe as we continue to deal with the coronavirus situation. All right, everyone. So I'll stop right there. I want to say have a great day, but when we're literally in the middle of a pandemic, have a safe day. All right. God bless.